In this tutorial, we're going to look at floats. A float is a CSS property that allows us to move an object from one place to another, usually left or right, and usually that's an image. So in this case, I'm working in CodePen, and periodically now, as we become more advanced in HTML and CSS and even JavaScript, I will often use code pens for tutorials. So I will give you a link to this pen, and you can go and play around with my code and change whatever you want to, and it won't save, it won't matter. But it's a way for you to practice what I'm giving you in the tutorial. Okay, so in this case, we have some placeholder text. This is just Latin gibberish, just to give us some text to look at. And then we have this image here. And when we're working with a float, it's important to note where what we are floating is in location to other things on our document. So this image is below this paragraph and this H1. Okay, to create a float, use your selector, and it's really easy. Really easy. We're either going to float left or float right. It's already on the left. Let's float it to the right. And then you see it moves over here. Now that doesn't look like it did a lot. Okay, not really a big deal, just having it moved over to the right side of the document. However, when we move this image, if we had it before our paragraph as opposed to after our paragraph, it would change the way our content looks. So now the text is moving around that, okay? What happens if we want it over on this side? Well, let's do a float left, and then you can see what it looks like over there. Okay, here's where we need to talk about padding and margin a little more. So you see right here, our text is just right up against that image, so we need to add a little extra white space there. So remember, this is our content, padding, border, we don't have a border, margin is what we want. So margin, and this is on the right side of the image, and let's give it 10 pixels. And now that moved that over a little. Okay, let's look a little further. So if in this instance we have our image floated to the left, but now we have more text, like what if there's more content? And maybe this was the end of this content with this deer picture, and we want our next heading to appear below that. We can clear a float. There are two ways to clear a float. You can use overflow, which is it's not really meant to clear a float, but you can use it to clear a float, and then the property clear. So it's so simple. So I'm going to create an ID called clear, and we're just going to say clear in the direction of the float. So we want to clear a left float, so we'll do clear left. And then you see that moves that below. So now we might want to add some more margin, so we might want to just do some margin, margin bottom, so that we have a little extra space down there, okay? Now play around with this. I have some other images. If you go here, what happens if we add these other images into our document? So now we have these two. You can just delete those comments like I just showed you. And what if you wanted these to float right? So see if you can figure out how to make those float right. Hint, you might want to use a class instead of the IMG selector. See if you can get that working. If you have questions, let me know. I'm not grading it. I just wanted you to tinker and play because you'll probably want to use floats on your upcoming website project.